sometimes you'll find that there's a need in the community, and then you'll get shoes delivered. And then sometimes it flips. And so, for instance, we had Parhu running company reached out, and they had 600 pairs of shoes for us. And so here comes the they said, do you want the shoes? And I was like, absolutely, absolutely. And then 2 or 3 days later, Girls on the Run Greater Richmond said, hey, can you help us with the middle school kids? You know, the girls. And I said, absolutely, absolutely. So that happened.
Welcome to America's Healthiest City. I'm your host, Will Melton, and today we have Robin Telfian from Shood. I'm so excited to talk to her about the work she's doing here in the community to make sure that people have great shoes, regardless of their income status, housing status, and everything else. We'll talk about the youth, we'll talk about the adults, we'll talk about the partnerships that are going on. But before we do, please check out americashealthiestcity.com to check out the ideas board, submit your ideas, read the comments. And if you represent a business, a nonprofit, an academic institution, or a government agency, and you'd like to get involved in our 10-year community partnership to make Richmond the healthiest community in America by 2033, please check out americashealthiestcity.com. Before we get started today, I just wanted to give a plug to Richmond Water. Please visit drinkrichmondwater.com if you would like to find out how you can help us eliminate single-use plastics. I don't normally plug the things that we do here on the show, but I do believe in what we're doing. I do believe that we can eliminate single-use plastics, and we have to do it by taking one small step at a time. So drinkrichmondwater.com, please check that out. Robin, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were introduced to us by Emily Milheiser. She came on our show last week, and why don't we start out by, why don't you just tell us how you know Emily, and then tell us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So I founded Shood back in 6 years ago. And one of the things that we noticed right offhand was the importance of partnerships. And one of our incredible partners is Caritas. And so with Caritas, we do shoe giveaways with them where we take hundreds of pairs of shoes, not only for their temporary shelter folks and the folks in recovery, but also we've been putting shoes from the beginning on the Healing Place 10K Monument 10K team. And so through that's how I became friends with Emily. And she's just always been such a great advocate for Shood. And our joke is that when Shood grows up, we want to be like Caritas because they do such a great job with sticking with dignity. Everything they do is based on dignity, and that's how Shood operates too.
Okay, well, let's not leave people hanging. We'll get back to your background, but let's talk about what Shood is.
Absolutely. Shood is a local 501c3. We started again 6 years ago. Since we started, we've given away 16,000 pairs of shoes locally. We collect men's and women's gently used running shoes, and we distribute them here in the city. And we kind of do that in two different ways. We collect not only from running shoe stores such as Fleet Feet, and we also work with sports bikers, but we also are starting to get in shoes from shoe companies and working more with shoe companies to get those newer shoes in. We kind of distribute them in two different ways. One of those is it's the heart of who we are and why we started, is we go to soup kitchens and food pantries and recovery programs throughout the city. And then the other way we distribute is something called Shooting Stars, which we go to the local high schools, inner city high schools, and we work with the cross country and track teams. Since we've started that program, we've also expanded to include Girls on the Run Greater Richmond and Kids Run RVA. Yeah.
I think we're going to delve into each of those a little bit more. So let's start with you on Richmond. When did you come to Richmond? Have you been here?
Yeah, so I came in the late 90s, probably like 98, 99, and I went to VCU Brand Center, and that's the reason I came here. I moved here from Nashville, and it was awesome. Like I didn't think I would stay in Richmond. It's one of those deals where you think you're coming in, you're going to grad school, and you're getting out. But I ended up, after I finished Brand Center, I went to work for the Martin Agency, which is, of course, an incredible agency. From there, I moved up to New York, but I could not help it but come back. And I ended up marrying a boy from here and raising kids here. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting to me. I'm in the digital marketing and brand space, so we get friends over at Martin,
Yeah.
and I want to. So I told folks last week that I actually had two opportunities on the same day I was on a podcast. I went to college for a semester, and so I was asking Emily what it's like to be in a sorority and how that kind of helps you plug into a campus community, and then beyond in life. I want to do the same thing with you. I know that the Brand Center is an award-winning program. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience was there, and maybe even talk about how that experience and your subsequent work experience led you to, creating Shoot?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like Brand Center, when I started looking at the graduate programs, I looked at VCU Brand Center and loved it immediately. I flew to town and actually got to walk through the halls, and I knew it was a place for me. What I learned from the Brand Center that I think was incredible was this creative thinking. I came from the corporate world where I used to work at Dollar General Corporation in Nashville, and it was all about when you had brainstorming sessions, they weren't truly brainstorming sessions. You went in and you kind of had the answer, what everybody in the room thought you should answer. When I got to Brand Center, what I noticed, one of my favorite classes was creative thinking. And it was really thinking outside of the box and building on one another's ideas, which was really great. Another big thing that came out of that was the connections I made at the Brand Center. Some of my closest friends really are still from my Brand Center days. When the idea of Shoot came up, like I immediately reached out to them first. I emailed them, I have this crazy idea, and I think I'd like to do this. And they were like, "You are spot on." And so they've been my biggest cheerleaders since we started. But I mean, I think because of that, you know, when I left the advertising world, had kids and everything like that, I think that I went back to those Brand Center days of this creative thinking when the idea of Shoot kind of landed in my lap. I was helping out at a soup kitchen, and one of the soup kitchen guests came up to me and said, "Can you get me a pair of shoes?" And then he said, "I wonder what happens to runner shoes after a big race." Like I just thought that was like the best question ever, and I went back to the Brand Center days of just like, what can I do with this? Like it was a light bulb went on, and I think I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't really had that ability to just like think about things in a different way. And at that moment, it was like, is it scarier to do this crazy idea I have or not do it? And so and everything that I've done with building Shoot has really been on really thinking things through and looking at the big picture.
Yeah. You're listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network on ESPN Richmond 106.1 and Choice 105.3. Welcome back to America's Healthiest City. I'm here with Robin Telfian from Shood, that's SHOOD, and we were just talking about the Brand Center and its influence on Shood. I want to talk about your logo because I have a sense that the Brand Center also had some influence over that too, even if it's just through you. Did you design that?
No, we worked with Elevation Advertising.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think, again, it goes back to the Brand Center days and the marketing agency days where you're connected to so many people. And a friend of mine who was at Elevation, I was just literally having wine with her one night. And I said, do you take us on pro bono? And at that time, we also were looking to change our name. Shoot was actually not the first name that we came up with. And I went and I said, well, here's who we are. This is what we're about. And then they took us on pro bono, and they not only named us, but they also did the logo and the website and all the creative elements.
We've got some friends over at Elevation, they folks that serve on the marketing committee at ShoodRVA. So we're grateful for your volunteership there, and obviously with Shoot as well. So one of the things that I'm just really impressed with, I read the story about how it came to be. You shared it with us. It's simple. It's not really complex. Yeah. And so you said earlier, when you grow up, I look at you guys. You guys are grown up now. So why don't we talk about where you started and where you are today? Because I know that you've had a shift a little bit in your mission statement, but maybe not so much in your mission. So how things changed, and maybe carry us forward a little bit into the near-term future of what you guys are.
Absolutely. When we started, it was really about the soup kitchens and the food pantries. That's where the idea of Shoot happened. And so it just felt right. And when we started, I went in to see Fleet Feet, Jeff Wells at Fleet Feet, and said, hey, can we put donation bins in your store? And so from the very beginning, it was all about running shoes, which was our total focus. We really targeted avid runners because they retire their shoes between 300 and 500 miles. So that was kind of this simple formula there. And then we just started going to soup kitchen and food pantries and then added in recovery programs. And again, just doing all this work. Well, one day, I think it was back in 2017 or 2019, we got a call from a coach at John Marshall High School, and they needed running shoes, and then ended up needing track spikes too. When we went out to put shoes on the student athletes, it was one of those moments where it felt so right. And then COVID hit, and then that happens, and we had a little time to become approved to be partners with Richmond Public Schools, and so that kind of became its own another program. So originally, when we started, it was really about getting donated shoes from avid runners. What's now started the shift is we need new shoes to give to the student athletes. So we're now starting to really go and try to talk to shoe companies to receive new shoes from them, and also track spikes. And we've been really fortunate. We've received several shipments, and again, working with a Relay Run, which is a local company here that does their outlet running shoe store, and that's online. So those are things that we're doing too. So it's kind of just expanded to not only getting one type of shoe, but also another, and then the distribution from there continues to expand.
Now, you guys have a physical location thanks to a great partner, Chesterfield Town Center. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in that location and kind of how people come there and leverage the space?
Absolutely. So Chesterfield Town Center, we were really fortunate because we were basically homeless. We were in one location, and unfortunately, we had to move because they sold the space. And so we were really grateful to be where we were at that time, but we needed to move. So we reached out to Chesterfield Town Center, which, you look at like Chesterfield Town Center, they had these empty spaces. And so they said, absolutely, come in. And our setup there that's really just we bring the collected shoes in, we organize them, we clean them if necessary, and then that's where the shoes go out. All of our distribution actually happens at the locations, whether it be the soup kitchens, food pantries, or the high schools. So that's really our working headquarters. And since then, Chesterfield Town Center has seen our need to have more space. So they actually are allowing us to have their space next door and blow the wall out. So we're expanding within that too.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you guys are pulling that off, because that doesn't happen for free. They're giving you the space, but you guys have to do the construction and build out and all that. So how do you guys find funds and how do people connect with you in that regard?
Absolutely. One of the things that, in the beginning, we just needed shoes and socks. And now we really are needing those monetary donations. And so we're really fortunate. We have something called Shoot Share sponsorships, where companies can pay for their employees to come out and actually do a shoot share and be the host of the shoot share. Shoot does all the work, but it allows the company to have a day out where they're doing good in the community, and that's for a sum of money. And so that's one way we get donations in. We also are just really fortunate to get grants and endowments coming through, but really and truly, we need funding. Where some people, usually they do the donating the shoes and everything, which is really great, but the funding piece really allows us not only to pay our rent there at Chesterfield Town Center, but also to put gas in our van. Vanna White is what we call it, and to also buy those contingency shoes, the shoes that we need that are specialty shoes. So the funding definitely is a way we need to have more of that.
So we talked a little bit about your partnership with Caritas earlier. That's not the only partnership you have in town. You want to touch on maybe some of the key partnerships that you guys have relied on as you've grown?
Absolutely. Probably our biggest shoe partners, again, is Relay, Fleet Feet, and then we also collect through Sports Factors, which they're amazing too. It's a great to align with those guys. Then as far as like distribution, again, it's Caritas, it's the Lighthouse RVA, St. Thomas on the north side of town. They have a food pantry over there. St. Peter's Catholic is another one. And that's where we go for distribution all the time. But again, it's what we've noticed is partnerships really do matter. And anything we do, it's aligning ourselves with people who are like us.
Well, if you haven't connected yet with Housing Families First, I'm on the board of directors there. That's the largest shelter for families in the region. And Bethany Turnbull is over there. She was actually in Leadership Metro Richmond Quest Class of 2020 with Emily Milheiser. So I'd love to connect you over there. So do some business here.
Thank you for listening to America's Healthiest City on My King Biz Radio Network.
Welcome back to America's Healthiest City. We are talking to Robin Telfian from Shood, and we're covering a lot of bases today, but I wanted to talk about the future of Shood because you guys are growing and there's some exciting things on the horizon potentially, and share what you feel comfortable with and tell us, how we can help you get there.
Absolutely. One of the things that from the very beginning when we started Shood was this idea. We recognized very quickly that Shood is an idea or a nonprofit that can expand outside of Richmond. It really can go anywhere where there's a strong running community and also a need in the community. And so from the very beginning, we spoke about it, and the idea was to pilot it in Richmond and take it outside of Richmond. We've been really fortunate to be aligned because of Chesterfield Town Center to be aligned with Brookfield Properties, which owns around 150 malls in the U.S. And so they have been talking to us about helping us expand outside of Richmond. So that's one thing that's happening, which is very exciting. But again, I think it's also expanding that Shooting Stars program where we're working with the high school student athletes in running programs along with the middle school. It's another way we want to expand our program. So lots of work being done in those areas.
So it's interesting. I used to run not sort of as I wasn't trained for anything. I wasn't going. I just ran a little bit here and there. And as I've started to get into this whole world of refillable water bottles and kind of eliminating single-use plastics, I've talked to a lot of people in the running community. And in Richmond specifically, I think it's very unique and really cohesive community. And somebody recently told me about something called Ragnar Reading. I'm not familiar with that, or I've become familiar with it. But have you guys ever talked to them or done any?
We've really started. That's been a part of. We do lots of post races with. We love the marathon post race. Oh my gosh, and the 10K post race is amazing. We are getting ready to do Girls on the Run, Greater Richmond post race. We love to go cheer on the runners after because we're thankful that they are donating shoes and volunteering for us and different things. So it's our way of celebrating them. But one of the things that we're looking to do is do more races. And so they have actually, I've been connected to them and for distance, but we haven't been able to connect totally yet. But Richmond Roadrunners, I know they're doing the cul-de-sac races. So Chris Mason over there, we always like to do races together. Frostbite 15K, we just did that one not too long ago. So Shood loves to be a part of races because, again, runners are who our people are. They're our target.
Well, I didn't ask you this question. Are you running yourself?
I do run, but I am not an avid runner. People go, "Oh, you do?" No. If I do 3 miles, it's a good day. It's a good day, but I love it. And I ran. I had 2 big brothers, so I had to run a lot. I had to run away from them. So I started running at a really young age and then ran all the way through high school. And to me, it was just this really great way of connecting as a team, but it's also individual too. You can push yourself by doing better times. And so I've always loved running.
So before the program today, we were talking a little bit about how when you just kind of take steps forward, the magic happens.
Yes.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the Shood magic?
Absolutely.
And what's that mean for you guys and how do you see that playing?
Shood magic to us, we laugh about it internally with Shood because sometimes you'll find that there's a need in the community and then you'll get shoes delivered. And then sometimes it flips. And so, for instance, we had Carhu Running Company reached out and they had 600 pairs of shoes for us. And so here comes they said, "Do you want the shoes?" And I was like, absolutely. And then 2 or 3 days later, Girls on the Run Greater Richmond said, "Hey, can you help us with the middle school kids? The girls." And I said, absolutely. So that happened. Then there'll be times when you'll receive, for instance, like Relay gave us a bunch of track spikes, and then again, a few days later, we received information from a coach saying we need tax spikes. So that kind of shoe magic is always happening, and we always love it.
Well, so I believe that, when you put yourself out there and you let the world know what you need, often it shows up for you. So why don't we take a moment? What's something that you guys need right now that you're looking for in the community or in the world that we might be able to connect to?
Absolutely. We really want, so we have plenty of shoes donated with the donation bins. Like, we are very fortunate and we want that to continue. However, we need newer shoes too, to really be able to expand that Shooting Stars program, not only with for the running shoes, but we also need track spikes. I mean, we need track spikes like you wouldn't believe. So those are definitely the needs that we would love to have, is more connections to shoe companies.
Well, we're gonna make an all call here to Adidas and New Balance and Nike. One of those is going to want to compete for this super special sponsorship with Shoe that is apparently growing potentially nationwide. So that's super exciting. I want to talk a little bit about just doing good in the community and see if there's anything that you're thinking about as you step forward into the future that you guys would like to do that you're not doing yet, or really just kind of taking this a little bit more long term with what your vision is.
Yeah, I definitely think we will expand outside of Richmond, but there's so much need in Richmond. So to us, like, everything we do is around dignity. Number one, that's how we operate, but also it's doing things in a deliberate way. And so it's really making sure everybody in Richmond is taken care of before we expand to another location. But that will happen. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, because all the stars are aligning, and we were at the marathon not too long ago, and people were like, why don't you have this in Alaska? Like, or something. Like, it'll get there eventually, I promise.
Well, the whole idea behind America's Healthiest City is that, sometimes it's about, what is your identifying your destination, and then, kind of gathering the resources to get there. And I think that one of the things that we've seen in this community is that there are these kind of pockets of interest and pockets of generosity, and often those things kind of operate in silos. You guys have done a really good job at connecting, but I would love it if you guys would consider becoming an ambassador to America's Healthiest City. And for those of you who are listening who haven't watched this program before, ambassadorship is really just about saying, we're going to put our strategic decisions through the filter that says, how will this decision make our community healthier? It's that simple. We don't audit you. You don't have to report anything to us. You can check out the ambassadors who are on our program now. We've got folks like AMF Bakery Systems who, were really wonderful. Another plug for Richmond Water. They actually had some really wonderful Earth Day activities, Earth Month activities, and they bought a can of Richmond Water for all their employees. So that was exciting. NBC 12 is also a sponsor. So an ambassador. So we're always excited to bring new people into the mix and, just bring us all together so that we can get where we want to go. And I do want to mention that, while we are talking about running today, we're talking about, to some degree, fitness, and, it's about the basic necessities, health. If you don't have a house, you can't store your pots and pans, you can't put your fresh fruits and vegetables. And so it's about connecting all those things together. So we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Something I want to ask you before we run out today, we've got a couple of minutes left. So I want to give you an opportunity to say anything that we didn't talk about, but I also want to see, is there somebody that you're aware of that's in this community that we should be highlighting on this program, that's doing good things and helping us to move the needle and healthier?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I definitely feel.
I haven't had anybody from Sports Backers. Who should I talk to at Sports Backers?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, John Markle is like the big kahuna over there. He's amazing. He believed in shoot from the very beginning, so we appreciate him. So definitely him.
Okay.
But also, Richmond Roadrunners is another one. I love those guys. Chris Mason. He's one of the folks that it would be great for you to talk to. He's got a great personality too. He'd be fun on here, that's for sure. But those two are right off the bat. But I think there's so many other, there's so many people doing good in this community. I mean, it's just overwhelming. I think Richmond is very fortunate to have so many incredible nonprofits and also companies that align with the nonprofits.
Well, we're really excited to have you on today, and I suspect that we'll probably have you on again in the future as you grow and have another exciting story to tell. Thanks for joining us today very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For those of you, again, have not paid attention to this program, please visit americashealthiestcity.com. We cannot do it alone. We have to do it together. We're moving in the direction of a healthier community, our entire jurisdiction of RVA, and we need your help. So please consider becoming an ambassador. If nothing else, please check out the ideas. There's some cool stuff on there from Teen Summit. Kids from the jurisdictions around were able to submit their ideas at that event, and we're super excited to highlight those as well. Thanks so much for joining us.